Welcome back, everybody. It is the Working Brother back at you with another talk. Yet again, we've got a special with two guests. If you missed the first part, there will be a link somewhere. This is Drago Bosnic, and that over there is Nebojsa Malic, also known as the Nebulator, and Drago from the BRICS portal. Longtime subscribers will know both of them. For those that don't, you can briefly introduce yourselves. Last time we had Nebojsa go first. Drago, go first.
Yeah, I'm a geopolitical and military analyst, and long time no see.
Long time no see. You're also from Serbia, refugee, just like me, and just like Nebulator is. Nebulator, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Lived in America for 28 years, currently living in Serbia, originally from Sarajevo, present-day Bosnia. Saw a bit of war, saw a bit of peace, saw a lot of politics, commented on Balkans and international affairs for a variety of media outlets from the US to Russia and back, as well as China, actually. Sort of been trying to share my observations there.
Right after you said China, your video internet cut out. I don't know, we've been having problems. This is the first time that I'm trying this thing now, officially the second time technically, because it's the second recording, but first day that I'm trying this with two guests. I welcome them and I thank them for their patience, like I thank you guys for your patience with my terrible humor. And by the way, for people who are new here, hi, welcome. This is a comedy show. Nothing we say has anything to do with reality. Now that that's out of the way, this surreal thing happened. Protests in Serbia. Who could have expected it? Imagine. This is a video from a long time ago, but I want to focus on... are you guys still there? You are? All right. I thought you froze for a second. I want to focus on this, flashing of the mobile phones. How do they do that? Because unless they've got an app, how is their, pointing to the camera being coordinated to flash like that, in sync, so to say?
It's either an app or somebody's calling it out and having people do it manually. I'm not really sure what's worse, the fact that everybody had downloaded the app and agreed to participate in the performance, or that they were doing it manually at somebody's beck and call. I mean, this is a level of coordination not exactly characteristic of Serbs, in my humble opinion. I love my people, don't get me wrong, but you got 3 Serbs in a room, you've got 50 opinions, and you're telling me that you got 50,000 of them on a city square and they're all singing in unison? That's a little sus.
50,000? You're definitely a paid bot of the Vučić regime. How can you say that? There was 2 million of them on the street. There was 250,770,000 million, zillion, billion of them, especially if you count over the 72,000 protests we have over the past 25 years. No, seriously speaking though, I want to ask both of you as fellow Serbs a serious question. These protests, the Ferrari protests, the second Ferrari protest, because we found out in the last episode that 96 was the first Ferrari protests. Who knew? So the BBC knew. The BBC knows everything. I want to ask you a serious question. What do the students want? What are the actual... That is what I was trying to remember. That woman that we discussed, the psychiatrist about politics, she was saying that it's very bizarre that there's no leader of this protest and that it all comes from an anonymous email address. I'm paraphrasing / quoting this professor. It's very easy for these demands that are subjected by the students to be formulated in somebody else's email address further west of Serbia and be sent to this anonymous email address of the Serbian students and be forwarded as their political opinion and position. Now, my question to you is, what is their demand? Well, or what are their demands? Because there can't be one. There has to be more. You need moving goalposts. So, any Serbs here want to tell me what their demands are?
Drago, you want to go first?
Well, to be honest, I don't know what their demands are. They're talking and they're shifting goalposts, as you said. So I would say that when you're doing that, it means that somebody else is, telling you what to do, and they're controlling your actions. I'm not talking about all protesters and all students. I'm talking about those who are the anonymous ones. The ones that are actually leading all this and orchestrating it.
Well, as far as I've heard from these student Soviets, to translate their organizational term into proper English, their demands, the first at the list of demands is for the government to publish all of the documentation about the construction and the reconstruction of this canopy.
Wait, time out. Sorry. I thought you were being funny when you said Soviets in the first one. But you're saying that the actual translation of their actual name would be the student Soviet?
They're call themselves plenum, which is a communist word for Soviet just means council.
All right. So these Soviet students,
they don't seem to mind. So I'll just call them that. That's fine. But so what their first demand is, publish all the documentation. Well, publish it how? Turn it over to the students. We'll put it in newspapers, post it online. How exactly? The government's like, okay, we've published 20 boxes of documentation. Vucic even had this big TV press conference where he was hauling all these boxes of papers, and they're like, well, that's not enough. Well, what is enough exactly? Oh, we don't know. All right, fine, whatever. But that is the first and only demand that deals with the railway station. The other demands that they've posted on these social media accounts, I'm assuming that they're representative of them because they claim so, are to drop all charges against students arrested for a riot. Not really sure what happened, but okay, remember that for a second. The second is to arrest and punish anybody who was involved.
Sorry, it cut out again. Arrest and punish everybody who's involved
in the attack on one of these student protests.
Mm-hmm.
From the theater school. And the fourth demand is, I'm trying to remember what the fourth demand is. Increase the higher education budget by 20%. Suddenly came out of nowhere. All right, pay us money for having done this. Let me just say this, and maybe this is me living in America for too long.
Mm-hmm.
You're asking the government to do its job in terms of like the state's responsibility to protect people's lives and property and punish those responsible, right? But you're also making demands. You need to arrest these people and need to free these people. So you're directly interfering in the government's job of protecting persons and property.
Oh, you forgot. By the way, today's news. By the way, everybody, we're recording this on the 24th of the 1st of the 2025. But yeah, the point is, there are protests going on today earlier, and I woke up to the news. I woke up late, but I woke up to the news of the veterans supporting the student protests to protect the Constitution, to protect the Constitution, and going by what you just said, those two, arrest these people and free these people. How does that go with the Constitution, bro?
Well, I'm trying to figure that out. I mean, I could pass for an American constitutional scholar because their constitution is very short and sweet. The Serbian constitution is a bit longer, just a bit, but. I couldn't find any mention of a student Soviet being a branch of government authorized to make prosecutorial or judiciary decisions. I might be young and naive, but I just don't understand. Where does that fit into a concept of a rule of law? Somebody please explain it to me. I'm very confused.
Drago, anything to add?
Well, I mean, this is the issue because the goalposts are shifting and expanding all the time, and that means that they are planning for something bigger. This is how most of these color revolutions are organized. You start from one thing, and then it explodes and it expands. So Even if the government decides to honor all these requests, I mean, I'm not against it. Obviously, I also want to know what happened to in the tragedy that killed those 15 people and maimed 2 others. But like, is that going to be the end of it? Are they going to be more?
I really don't know what's going on with this Telegram
anonymous
thing. Yeah, you were saying you really don't know if there's going to be what?
I don't know if there are going to be more demands, and if those demands are going to be coordinated by someone else, someone anonymous, as you said. This is the issue because, whoever is organizing protests is not going to do anything good for us. They want to change policies or implement policies that are going to be very bad for us. And of course, they're going to use it. They're going to use this tragedy to implement that.
I've got like a meme mixed in with a pun, mixed in with National Meme Coordination Body is really good. DDoS colorizovano. Denial of, because it says IT blockade right here. It says IT blockada. So do you guys want to explain who DOS is to people who might not get the pun because they're not Serbian?
So the original Color Revolution group that was doing the 2000 revolution, which I call the Yellow Revolution after the color of the EU stars that this particular regime became fixated on, they call themselves the Democratic Opposition of Serbia, DOS. And so this is clearly a pun on the discriminated denial of service. Except I, at the time, was a critic of this particular regime, and I called them, I said they mistook the preposition in English. They should have been called Democratic Opposition to Serbia.
What was I gonna say? But yeah, that DDoS thing was really funny because basically that is what they're doing. Like, I mean, these protests are DDoSing basically the ability of the government to function by filling up the streets, And that's also what that professor was getting into. That's why I flashed her up here earlier. I didn't say all those things. I was referencing and citing what this lady was saying. So yeah, there's that. I've got a ton of things here. Like, I don't know what order they're in. There's just so many of them. There's like this one. I think this was from New Year's. Dvijan's body. You guys might know the meme page. It's kind of a classic. They were supporting the New Year's protests. Where? No. Why is this not in order? I don't know. You remember the protests for New Year's? Did you go? Of course, that was a rhetorical question. I know you didn't go, but I'm saying, can you believe that they even tried on New Year's to do protests? It was rather desperate, I think is the word. Do you guys want to tell people what's going on here? Because I half don't know, half don't want to know. But what's with the second symbol? And can you actually see what Mr. Nebojsa Krstic is saying here?
I can't, but I know that his account was deleted very soon thereafter, so that's a little sus.
He says koliko razumijem, ovo levo je znak Hamasa, a ovo desno je antiteroristički znak.
So he's trying to say
who this person is.
Yeah. Well, I have a vague idea, but I'll let Drago explain if he wants to. But I think his argument is that the open fist is a sign of Hamas, and that the middle finger is an anti-terrorist symbol. I don't think that discourse was either productive or necessary, and I think whoever came up with that particular middle finger narrative didn't do anybody any favors. But again, I think the whole bloody fist thing, bloody hand thing, is just awfully inappropriate, and people need to stop with that garbage. It was clearly somebody outsider marketing influence, and it landed about as well as most commercials land here.
Yeah,
Drago?
I would just add to that the middle finger is just the government's clumsy attempt to create something that's going to be a sort of like an antithetical to these protesters.
Do you think it was the government?
It's not very effective. It can only be counterproductive to the point that I would probably think that somebody from within the government who works for the other side did it on purpose, or they're just that incompetent. In either way, in both cases, it shows us that not very competent people are on both sides. But the problem is the side that is supported by the global American empire is the one that wants to destroy us. And this is something that we need to understand. No matter how bad the government is, the people that are working for the global American government are the ones who want the worst for you. And we've seen that repeatedly. We've seen that on October 5th, 2000, when the first protest came. We could have said a bunch of bad things about Slobodan Milosevic, who was the president at the time, but he certainly was the last sovereign leader of Serbia. After October 5th, 2000, we've had zero sovereign governments in Serbia. The current government is like semi-colonial, whatever you want to call it, but after the year 2000, Serbian sovereignty has been in tatters. Essentially, it's far better.
I don't know. I don't know if it might have anything to do. It might have something to do with bond steel. I couldn't be sure, but it could have something to do with bond steel. You want to explain to people what happened around that time?
Yeah, of course. Like in 1999, Serbia got bombed, and they took away the Serbian province of Kosovo and Metohija, which is in the southwest of Serbia. And of course, I mean, we haven't been fully sovereign in that regard since 1999. But when we're talking about state sovereignty, not just territorial, I'm talking about state sovereignty, we haven't been sovereign since October 5th, 2000. And they've made sure that this always stays that way. And the problem is, every single time when we had government change, it was always worse, essentially. It was always something that they took from us. And of course, they painted it completely differently. Like, they would paint it as something that was democratic, that was for the people and by the people and so on. It wasn't. It wasn't by the people. It wasn't for the people. It was by the global American empire, for the global American empire.
For Ferrari. As we found out.
So, yeah, the top flag in that meme is the no surrender flag that has been used as a sign of like the sovereignist side of Serbian politics that was protesting against the seizure of Kosovo. But the issue is that, there were plenty of such flags at one of these protests, and then one of these student groups was like, "We condemn every flag of evil nationalism," and the next protest they disappeared. It's just, and for a moment, these protesters were like, "Yeah, we're patriots. We want to fight this. We're accusing the government of betraying Kosovo."
I just want to be pedantic here. I'm like the asshole who has to point these little details out to people. The Serbian constitution, as complicated as you said it is, kind of outlines the territorial integrity of Serbia, with Kosovo as an integral part of its territorial integrity because of its cultural and historical heritage. So I don't understand what you mean, nationalist protests that they're going to protect the Constitution, right?
Right. Well, so hear me out, because there's two. I mean, for our viewers in the rest of the world, there's basically the current government is trying to sort of ride the beam between the civic opposition, the globalist liberal. All we need to do is just abandon our identity, faith, language, sovereignty, territorial integrity, join the EU as a massive gray goo, and we will all live better magically overnight, because that's what happened in Bulgaria, except that it didn't. And then, you've got this fairly disorganized group on the other side side who are like, and our faith and our sovereignty, and screw the EU. That's the only thing in which they agree with Victoria Nuland. And just forget about this whole European integrations business. Let us be a free country. And they're the ones who are insisting on enforcing the preamble of the Constitution with regards to Kosovo. And they're the ones criticizing the government for, they claim that the government's been giving it away piece by piece. But I'm reminded of a slogan that I heard back in 2000, because one of the ways these protests were hijacked in 2000 was that the people out in the street were accusing Milosevic of having surrendered and betrayed Kosovo. It even rhymed in Serbian. They were literally people who were literally unwittingly or knowingly working for the globalist American empire at the time were accusing Milosevic actually done. And they were trying to sell it to the general public as, oh, we're patriots, we're just objecting to his treason, alleged treason. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the moment they got in power, they're like, oh, yes, totally, no, take it away. We're getting rid of everything Serbian, fire sale on everything Serbian, just take whatever you want. We'll do anything. We will do everything you tell us, in the words of a former Serbian president that I heard personally in Washington. So, it's funny how that works. It's like, okay, it brings back Samuel Johnson's, fake patriotism is the last refuge of a scoundrel. Be careful of people who are trying to emotionally manipulate you from any side, what government protests, this party, that party, because if you allow your buttons to be pushed, everybody's going to push them.
That's one way to put it. I just want to do a throwback to June last year. Defender Europe. Everybody remember Defender Europe 2023, when NATO had a little exercise of how they were going to be in Kosovo and around Serbia and stuff like that. And then you guys might have missed it, but soon after that, the protests against violence came back from the summer holidays. Like soon after that being like, right after that. So yeah, I don't know what more we can tell people about these things to try and make it.
I just want to add to what Nebojsa said. We are, whoever is running the protest knows that we are deeply patriotic. Most Serbs are. So they know which buttons to push, as Nebojsa said. They know that if they paint it as treason of national interest, we're going to get riled up. And this is how they work. They function, and they know that these lefted liptards are not going to get off their asses and go protest and fight the police. They know that nationalists and conservatives are going to do that for them, and that's why they always put them first to get killed and get beaten by the police, and then they move in, behind the scenes. And this is what happened in October 2000. And since then, we've been hijacked by these people, and they've essentially dismantled us from within. What the entire NATO machine couldn't do in 10 years of siege of Serbia and former Yugoslavia, they did it in about 5. So this is why it's so dangerous. This is a form of warfare. People don't understand that this is a part of the strategy of the U.S. military and NATO. It was coordinated by them. It was essentially designed by them. And it's, and the results have been catastrophic. Our military has been in tatters for the last several decades. There are some efforts to rebuild it now, but it's still a shadow of its former self. So they've essentially destroyed us from within. It's almost like cancer, like a person, if you're fighting someone on the outside, you might get, beaten, but you're going to get up. If an illness like cancer happens, it destroys you from within. So this is the problem with color revolutions. It's essentially like injecting cancer into countries and then destroying them from within.
Well, one of these things, this was in full force in America over the past several years. You could literally see, the reaction of the establishment to the first Trump term. Whatever you think about Trump, there's no denying that, his election made people lose their minds. And they essentially ran through every single system, institution, value.
By people, you mean leftist weirdos and those freaks in government and so on. That's what you meant to say by people.
The Democrats. But I mean, a lot of people, even people you would think were reasonable, they just lost their minds because TV told them to, and they ended up essentially destroying the fabric of American society to the point where, at one point, about a year or so ago, it looked like they were going to descend into a shooting civil war. They really did. And then, within a scope of a few months, Trump wins the election decisively and starts making radical changes, undoing the legacy of the last 4 years. And you don't really see, I mean, not to veer off into a different discussion, but, you're basically seeing this process by which he's purging the people that have burned into the government to make it their own plaything. I guess what I'm trying to say in a fairly compressed format, because to be nuanced would take a lot of time, but this is not inevitable, and this type of influence was arguably what the U.S. was doing around the world with these color revolutions and winning other people's elections. What they were trying to do is they were weaponizing basic human decency against a society. They essentially created a form of autoimmune disease that was feeding on society itself. And over the past 8 years, it was brought into America itself and let loose for the sake of political advancement of a particular cause. And in the end, that particular cause appears to have lost. And at this point, it appears to have lost. I'm going to hedge my bets a little bit because I'm honestly, at this point, I can't believe that it was fully defeated as it seems, because it just seems too easy. But at this point, it seems to have been defeated. And we'll see what happens, obviously. But
you're basically talking about the satanic globalist empire of the Democrat West.
Right. Well, yes,
basically.
Right. But it was in the service of that particular enterprise. But this particular, let's say, societal virus, the woke mind virus, as Elon Musk calls it, it was essentially created in a political lab, shall we say, and unleashed upon target countries. And because you can't really contain it once it's out in the wild, it ended up being brought back home. And I, literally watched as America descended into this madness itself. The same madness that had spread around the world and weaponized. But the key feature of the system is it's weaponizing human kindness. It's weaponizing the best virtues of society against itself. So you go, oh, well, these are our brave children. We should support them. And yet these brave children are being used to bring in the CIA through the back door. It's been done before in many other places, many such cases. And so it's one of those, and the worst thing about it, even if these cultures manage to defeat these color revolutions, which Serbia failed the first time around, there's always the cynicism that remains afterwards. And you don't trust your neighbor. You don't like the other people on the bus or on the metro. You always who is an operative, who's a foreign agent, who's trying to screw me over. And to heal from this, corruption takes years, decades that, we don't, a lot of people don't have the luxury of. So, I suppose there's a bit of poetic justice in this virus coming home and wreaking havoc as well. But not to end up on a down note, but the fact that the Americans seem to have figured out how to deal with it and are actually fighting it and seem to be winning ought to give the rest of us hope that it's actually possible and that this kind of, manipulation should never be allowed to happen again.
My YouTube algorithm has been trained well, and recently, after Trump's election, it's been getting even better. And it popped up with a suggestion the other day I was watching because, like, why not get into a bit of history? 1989 U.S. invasion of Panama. Like I said, well-trained algorithm. Reporting on the fall of Manuel Noriega from ITN, which I believe is British news, of long yesteryear. And I think this is cute. I'm pretty sure this is cute. But this is a Soviet reaction to what's going on. Come on.
Return to a situation, of gunboats diplomacy, which I hoped we have already passed.
Americans, he says, they lecture us on human rights, they send protests to Romania, then they turn round and bomb a small country like Panama.
Any resemblance to reality is purely coincidental. Like, has nothing to do with what we're talking about, nothing to do with what either of you mentioned, or like why you don't live in the places you're born.
Yeah. Well, let's not forget, and everybody seems to have forgotten what just happened in Romania. They had an election. The guy who was not supposed to win the election won the election, and then their Supreme Court was like, "Nah, we're just going to cancel it." The wrong result happened.
As Drago pointed out to me, Drago, you want to clear up what that EU former official said? The French guy?
Former EU Commissioner Thierry Breton from France. He said, we did it in Romania, we're going to do it in Germany. For the idiots who didn't get the memo what happened in Romania, he had to spell it out, and that's what happened, essentially.
There's a British scholar, Phil Cunliffe, I believe, who put it best back in like 2007 during these elections in Serbia. He said, it doesn't matter who wins, it matters who the European Union declares as a democrat and therefore is a winner. If the EU's preferred candidate wins, that's democracy. And if the EU's preferred candidate loses, then that's obviously a corrupt dictatorship.
Juan Guaido, right?
and again, like I remember exactly Juan Guaido, the provisional president of Venezuela. I remember, seeing this time and again, we had this situation in America in 2020 where basically the election was declared the most democratic and transparent and legitimate election ever because the preferred candidate won. And the issue is that, 40 years later, it's like, we knew he was really not quite there all along, but it's fine. And, the correct result, the correct outcome was achieved. And I'm like, can you guys hear yourselves? What is the self-awareness level? -1,000? And then people are like, we love democracy. What is democracy? Ruled by Democrats? Like, what, how would, can you people define woman for me, please?
Democrats. You're pronouncing it wrong. In my area, they're called Democrats. That's the local slang. I mean local, what's it called? Twang, actually. So yeah, shall we do some more Serbia protests, or has everybody had enough of fucking Serbia protests? I'm guessing people have not had enough because they're still out in the fucking street. Also, if you're still here, hi. Welcome. Thanks for sticking around. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm not going to bother you guys with the full pop-up, but yeah, go buy me a coffee. Thank you to all the Patreon supporters and everybody else who likes, shares, and sends this along to people who need to wake up about some things in their life and find the comedy acceptable. It is the worst comedy show on YouTube. I'm proud of it. You remember the protests against lithium? By the way, do you know what officially happened with the lithium story? Is there a conclusion to it? Did Vucic pay them out? Did they ask him for money? Did he sell the southern northern Serbian provinces of everything to the Australian conglomerate like CNN and opposition media want me to believe? Or is anything actually resolved in this story? Either of you? No?
Well, I'll let Drago speak to it because I don't actually know. I think that whole story just sort of vanished after the mass protest that actually was, I believe, was genuine. There was a mass of people that blockaded the main street of Belgrade for an afternoon, and then they dispersed. There were no riots. There were no attempts of overthrowing the government. They just sort of sat there, chanted patriotic songs, and went home. Was it inconvenient? Yes.
Wait, are you talking about the first instance of said protest? Because there was like 17 of those. You might have missed them. You may have been traveling or something. But there was 17 instances of anti-Rio. Well, I'm like being facetious when I say 17. But there was several instances of anti-Rio Tinto protests. It took like at least 3 to 4 weeks, if not longer, as in weekends. Haha, because like I said, weekend politicians, or political spectators. In any case. Originally, yes. Sorry, Drago. 1 second. Originally, yes. The protests had aims and goals, like which I agree with. Like you said, they take something that you agree with. Like, I don't want my country to be exploited by lithium mines. Like, I'm pretty sure nobody does in their right mind who has any kind of like awareness of what happens to the nature around it. But that was used, and soon, within a week of the start of the protest, it became a protest against him, against the dictator who sold us out, and so on and so forth and so on. And then these people showed up. I just want to flash this guy because, like, you can't sit in this pose and not be aware of what pose you're sitting in. That's all I'm going to say about that. These are the eco guys. He's also from Novi Sad. He actually showed up in some other stories. And the reason that I had to cut you short, Nebojsa, is because week 3 of said protest, this guy zip-tied himself to the rail cars, to the rail lines here in Belgrade or some shit. And that was also like, so it wasn't just like, these peaceful protesters who actually had a good point. They were again being astroturfed. And before you get back to me, Drago had something to say earlier. Sorry, I cut him off earlier.
I just wanted to say that I agree with what Nebojsa said, and I agree with what you said. That protest was legitimate, and it wasn't organized by the globalist American empire. However, it was essentially undermined by it because it's in their interest to get the lithium in Serbia and to continue to exploit us, because especially in that area, which is essentially the border between Serbia and the Republika Srpska, which is a Serbian part of Bosnia. It's in their interest for that area to be devastated because it's going to cut the connection between Serbia and the Republika Srpska, which is, of course, one of their strategic goals is to dismantle the Serbian Republic in Bosnia, because Not to mention those German fans of nuts and pointing at the sun and Mars also for years have been trying, like decades, maybe even longer than decades, almost like centuries, have been trying to like get rid of the Serbs and their south, and the conglomerate is basically German. Go on, Nebojsa.
Well, I mean, I heard a joke during those protests that the only thing the Germans can dig up in that area is their great-grandfathers who fought here in World War I and were repelled.
Oh, what a burn. What a burn.
Yeah,
that was good.
It's right there on par with, Harold Godwinson's promise to Harald Hardrada back in 1066 after he beat the Danes at Stamford Bridge, for fans of British history. But again, yes, exactly. The lithium protests literally fizzled out when those yahoos started to try to hijack them by the stunt at the railway station. I remember that very well. They went and got themselves arrested and spent the night in jail and pretended to be big victims and whatever. And it's just proof of our hypothesis here is that every single mass protest, no matter how noble, no matter how authentic, no matter how genuine, or not disorganized, but distributed, organic can be hijacked by people who have literally developed a technology for hijacking it. What's the best way not to get AIDS? Don't engage in intercourse with HIV positive people. to put it bluntly. And so basically, the moment you get these carriers of the woke mind virus in your midst, you're going to get your entire protest or political movement or whatever hijacked by the woke mind virus. You need to develop an immunity against it first. That's hard work. People want to not hard work. They want a shortcut.
As we've been discussing this for the last 2 hours now almost, I've been thinking the last organic, real protests in Serbia or Yugoslavia or in the Balkans were the Target protests. Those were real protests. And I think all Serbs can agree that those were real protests. And for those who may not know, that was when we were being bombed and Serbs were like, fuck off. We're just going to go stand on our bridges. If you want to shoot down our bridges, good luck with explaining the collateral damage. And they just partied on the bridges for like, I don't know, a couple of weeks.
Yeah, many have done that. And I just want to say one thing. I think it was last year or maybe the year before, I'm not sure. There were 2 Serbian kids in Kosovo who got shot at by an Albanian narco-terrorist soldier while they were going and essentially celebrating the Serbian Orthodox Christmas. And they were supposed to get the Serbian Christmas tree, Badnjak as we call it. And they got shot, and they almost got killed. There were no protests in Serbia because of this. I mean, I think any
this was during the time of the protests of Serbia against violence, but like not Serbia against violence against Serbs in Kosovo, just Serbia against violence in Serbia against organized mass shootings of MK Ultra subjects.
So that's okay, right? Who gives a damn about Serbs in Kosovo? They can be shot at any time. I mean, they're not democratic enough, right? And of course, this is the issue I have with this. If you really want to support your country and your people, the first thing you would protest about is these Albanian narco-terrorists shooting our people. Because, I mean, they've done far worse things to Serbian people in Kosovo and Metohija, but this was one of the things that should have triggered most of us to actually protest against this and like literally ask for the Serbian military to move in and protect our people. So that would have been a protest I would certainly support. And of course, it wouldn't be against the Serbian state. But nobody was doing that. So what that means is that even if somebody was trying to, start a protest because of that, it would be, or in a matter of days. And they would promote something else over it. So, and the point is, like, the people who control the narrative, they know how to control the masses. They know how to push them to do certain things for, to be in line with their goals. And this is the main reason why we should be extremely careful about protesting about something or against something, no matter how noble it is on the outside, as Nebojsa said.
I just wanna, cause you said Kosovo, and I was like, yeah. First thought of mine when they started with the picture purports to show protests in Novi Sad, Serbia, motivated by the recent tragedy at the train station that resulted in the death of 14 civilians. Would be the neutral Reuters headline on the feed, I imagine. Meanwhile, the one I gave it, masses of civilians mobilized to Jarinje crossing in the administrative line to show support for their fellow Serbs in occupied Kosovo and Metohija. Now imagine that like half of these people, not even half of these people, like a quarter of these people, just walked, not like attacked, not like organized and made militias or anything, just walked across the border administrative line and like just chilled, camped there for like a week. Well,
Gandhi's Salt March is there's a reason it's not brought up in all of these manuals of peaceful protests, because it was effective. It was essentially a large crowd of people who literally marched to the salt mines and forced the British police to beat them for the cameras. It's imagine 10,000 people marching to Kosovo as a march of return. But nobody's doing that. And
Forget 10,000. Try 100,000. I'm like serious, like 100,000,
I mean, okay,
like on
fine.
the border.
Let's think big, but again, it's one of those. For the longest time.
By the way, this is not a call to action. This is a hypothetical. We're just talking hypotheticals. This is a comedy show. Nothing we say here has anything to do with reality. And these are two of the best comedians that I know, and that's why this appears so funny to everybody who's watching. All right, just making things clear. Sorry, go on.
Well, it's like, as Drago is pointing out, you have this, any other march. Let's say a march for any cause whatsoever. Let's have the march for the rights of puppies. Everybody loves puppies. What are you against puppies? Are you a puppy hater? You'll get 100,000 people who love puppies. People in Serbia love dogs. Great. Dogs are great. And within an hour, there will be a trained cell of NED operatives going, if you like puppies, we need to bring the government down. Down with the government. Like, this is what happens every time. You can't, I'm literally telling people, don't go out to the street to protest because it is going to get hijacked. There's 1,000,001 ways to affect political change in society. Look at America. Everybody thought this was impossible. Look at Russia. Everybody thought that was impossible. There's 1,000,001 ways, a different result. It's a definition of insanity that's been wrongfully attributed to Albert Einstein, but it's still a definition of insanity, and you're not crazy.
Yeah. You, at some point, Nebojsa, wanted to mention the funding of these people and where you were getting into the details of where was it Crta? What did you say they were called? I can't remember. But you were going to get into that, so I wanted to bring up this in the background. I was watching one of the videos. I was like, let's see what the protesters are doing today. And I watched the live feed, and there's like a screenshot, and there's like a screen at some point where like they've got about 500 euros, 400 euros, stuck onto this banner that they're holding with these hands. And I'm just like, wow, that's a lot of money to spend on a banner. You could buy me a coffee instead of spending it on a banner. But no, seriously speaking, though, like you were going to talk about the funding of these people.
Well, that's the other thing. When I was talking earlier about weaponization of human kindness and exploiting societies through autoimmune diseases, you literally have this set of organizations that are agencies inside the U.S. government that were set up in the 80s to do things the CIA was doing covertly, just do them openly, in the words of the CIA director at the time. And, the National Endowment of Democracy works through the National Democratic Institute and the International Republican Institute, and then you've got cutouts like the McCain Institute that this failed president of Georgia just went to work with. And their job is essentially to funnel U.S. taxpayer dollars to regime change operations. And instead of having to invade and spending trillions in Pentagon weapons like they're having to do in Ukraine, they can spend local agents or persuade them that they're doing something for themselves, whereas in fact they're serving a different master, and do it on the cheap. And they're boasting about it. They're literally like, they've got, reports on their websites. They're giving interviews in newspapers. It's all public. They just claim it's developing democracy, but because of course they would. And there's a bit of a revolution ongoing in the United States about this right now, because 2 or 3 days ago, Trump signed an executive order that basically paused all foreign aid and said, the State Department needs to re-examine everything because too often it's spent to actually harm our interests and promote instability and stupid ideas that don't actually harmonize with American values. I'm like, wow, somebody dared say it, because it's true. Why would an American worker have their savings seized to pay for research on transgender giraffes in Uganda? Or, alphabet soup theater in Montenegro, or the rights of queer squirrels in North Macedonia, or any number of these things. Why? Obviously, nobody cares about queer squirrels in Macedonia. This is a money laundering scheme. And I don't know whether it's a way to, pay off some people in Skopje, or whether to funnel money through to the KLA there, or to essentially enrich this parasite class of DEI commissars and otherwise useless eaters in the United States who would need to get a real job managing the Panda Express or something otherwise. But it doesn't matter. It's distorting. You pump that much money into a
Yeah, that's definitely Steve, the NSA agent, saying hi. Like you cut out like 4 times, but that last time, that was definitely him saying hi, with expedient results. Yeah, no, sorry to interrupt there, but like you were cutting up and that was just too funny. I couldn't. But yes, I have no idea what you're talking about, as usual. You're just spewing Russian propaganda. Both of you are like tools of the state, and not just the state, like the state, But obviously, yeah. I hope people get the sarcasm here. I really do, because if
I
not,
just want to add something to what Nebojsa said. I remember I was still in high school because I was born in 1991. I was still in high school when one of the leaders of the Serbian so-called opposition that was funded by the U.S., his name is Velimir Ilic. I'm not sure what's happened to him. He's not actually talking on TV. They literally went to Hungary. He was wearing a fur coat, and the U.S. embassy in Budapest was giving them money, and they were putting it in the fur coat. And then they would go over the border, and that was how they funded the opposition. And he was talking about this and laughing, and I remember I was like 16 at the time and thinking, Jesus Christ, they can say this on TV without all of us getting up and like getting these people off the freaking, government, like just get them off the, remove them from power, right? And this is how blatant they've become. These people who work for the globalist American empire, like they don't give a damn so much that they're ready to say things like this openly and laugh about it.
No idea what you're talking about. Milosevic was a bad guy, and Serbs are bad. I remember when I was a kid. Grew up in Kuwait, surrounded by Arabs who were Muslim, obviously. And I remember being clearly told that Serbs are Muslim killers and that they're bad. And CNN has the truth. And what was that woman's name? Amanpour?
Christiane Amanpour?
Yeah. All of us are... that and like Jamie Shea. All of us are going to remember these names forever. Like burned into our brains. So yeah.
Well, I hope they burn in hell soon enough.
Everybody will get what's coming to them.
Wait, Kuwaitis are Muslim? I had no idea. You're telling me this for the first time. Half of them are, a little bit less than half are Shia, and a little bit more than half are Sunni, and there is actually a very small minority of Christian Kuwaitis, believe it or not, like actual Kuwaitis who are actually Christian, not like what are they called? People, immigrants who became Kuwaiti who were Christian, but like actually Kuwaiti Christians. So yeah, Kuwait's, as they like to say, since they were liberated by the Americans, Kuwait is free and beautiful. And anybody who's been to Kuwait knows how true that is. The desert is very beautiful. I'm tempted to say they create a desert and call it peace, but I don't think that's quite an appropriate quote in this context.
Right? I don't know. Is there anything else either of you two would want to cover before we call this second extravaganza of Serbian propaganda and proletariat protests?
Drago, you want to go?
Well, I don't know what to say. I can only repeat what I said before, and that's whenever you see a protest, whenever there's something going on, just join it and try to see how you can destroy your country, because that's what you do. For the sake of global democracy, because that's the bedrock of human civilization, as Bill Clinton would say.
I was going to say something like, if you want to be on the same side with Bill Gates, go right ahead. But I'm going to be serious for a second because you said this is the worst comedy show on YouTube. I guess my message to anybody who wants to, try to get carried away with the moment and ride the wave of emotions and, try to make a difference by wrecking stuff that takes generations to build. You don't have to do this. Trump won.
Excellent. Trump won. And you quoted Bill. And I've, by pure chance, this is not scripted, got Bill Clinton's Trump statement to Yugoslavia at Real Slick Willie. I'm not looking to hurt Yugoslavia. I love the Serbian people and always have a very good relationship with President Milosevic. do I do a good Bill Clinton? I wasn't even trying. And this despite the radical Monica hoax. Everybody who doesn't know, the day that Serbia, ex-Yugoslavia, was bombed the most was the day that Monica Lewinsky story broke. Blah, blah, blah. You can read it on screen. I can't do the Bill Clinton thing. Well, I've had enough of this. All right. You two, Drago, Nebulator, thank you for coming on. This was excellent. I hope the audience learned something. I hope the Serbs will send this to their Serb-speaking protesting friends and teach them something about like how they're being used. And I hope I was gonna sound like a 200% AV bot and be like mir I stabilnost, peace and stability. But let's actually hope that Trump changes the pressure setting on the cooker that we've got going on all these global fires. I've got a message for those that might have missed it in the first episode that we did. Michael Jordan has this for you.
Stop it. Get some help.
All right, everybody, see you later. Drago, thank you. Nebojsa, thank you too. Like, share, subscribe, all the good stuff.